Welcome to Life is a Rollercoaster, a podcast about the past, present, and future of the events and attractions industry. If you like future updates about our podcasts, please like and subscribe.
Welcome back to another podcast of Life is a Rollercoaster with myself and James Mellors. Something that we've talked about a few times that we thought we'd talk about a bit more, because I want to learn, is all about the European fairs, because I've never been to one. You yourself have, haven't you, James?
Yeah, I've been to quite a few. Not as many as I'd like, to be fair, because like you said, they are good. But when you're from the industry, once you've seen one, they're all pretty much the same with the rides. But no, they're great atmospheres, and you can't not enjoy them. The difference with a lot of the European fairs is the inclusion of alcohol, and it really makes it a good day out. You know, they have bigger places for people to sit and eat, and the drinking. So yeah, some good events out there.
Yeah, obviously, from what I've seen, 'cause like I said, I've not been to it, but it does differ quite a lot. They seem to have a lot more, let's say, unique rides than what the UK does. Do you think that's something
It depends what you call
agreeable?
as unique. It depends what you call as unique. I suppose that the difference is, and I think I touched on it before, the European fairs were different to the British fairs, where the British fairs have been going for so many hundreds of years. A lot of the sites have been handed down through generations. We build in streets which are narrow. You know, you go to some of the street fairs, and the streets in the UK are very narrow. Streets in Europe are wider. They're just naturally built wider. They have bigger open spaces in city centres. The UK is a small island, and everything has been very, very condensed here. So we don't have the space, unfortunately, that a lot of people have. But also, if you talk about Germany, for instance, they have these massive pieces of land, and the power is installed in the land ready for when the fair goes. And again, we don't get that in the UK. So we have to run on generators, we have to work on small pieces of land, and we have to get in and out. So when you talk about the big unique rides, that's potentially because we don't have the capacity to be able to do that in the UK, or didn't. I think it's changed a lot over the years. I think now more amusement parks and things have opened in Germany. I think they had a different taxing. Well, they did have a different taxing structure in Germany. So they were really helped by the government to buy new rides and invest. However, as the years have gone on, you know, I remember, for instance, Starflyers, Top Scans, you saw them over in Germany in early 90s, but you didn't see them anywhere in the UK. But I think from the late 90s through the 2000s to start, actually, I think we've narrowed off. You still cut the foreign fairs still are great. They open for 2-3 weeks. They say they've got alcohol. They have temporary restaurants on site. So they are still great. But I don't think the difference is as far. It depends what you compare to. If you compare to the smaller fairs in the UK, then yes, it's a huge difference.
Yeah. What's the difference?
The problem is
in the
a lot of people only talk about the big fairs in Germany, and they don't actually see the small fairs, but they see the small fairs here. So it depends what you're comparing to.
Well, how would you compare the atmosphere from one of them to, say, like Goose Fair?
Totally different in the way the place is set out. What you tend to see on a German fair is you'll only hear the music from one ride at a time, because rides are either got big spaces between them. I mean, I'm talking they can have spaces of 20-meter pathways, maybe even wider. You know, we don't have ride positions at 20 meters at a lot of our major fairs, let alone pathways. You know, a pathway at Goose Fair is probably around about 7 meters at the most. You know, there's pathways even narrower than that. They have pathways of 20 meters, 30 meters in Munich and things. So it's that the spaces to allow for the people are so big. It's a more relaxed atmosphere, I'd say, on the European market. But then I think the British people actually like the hustle bustle. We like that noise. You know, we're different people.
Yeah.
You know, they're sitting outside on the coffee bars. They've been doing it for years in Paris and things on the continent. We like to get inside a pub with a bit of hustle and bustle and noise. We're just different people.
Yeah.
So
Do you
it's
think?
great to go away and experience the way they do it.
Yeah. Do you think that that kind of atmosphere would ever come to the UK?
I think it is slowly. I think, like, again, the sites don't allow us to do that, but I think it is slowly now. The culture of the people are changing, aren't we? I mean,
Yeah.
years ago, pubs used to close on Sunday afternoons and kick out at 11 o'clock at night, and now they don't. So the culture, what we have, you walk down the streets, especially now because pubs are closed and it's all beer gardens. People are sat out in the streets drinking more. So I think the actual culture, we're becoming more continental in that way. You already see now a licensed bar that goes to Goose Fair.
Yeah.
So I do see it changing, and I actually think it's for the good. I'd like to see it at more of the fairs with the bars, bigger seating areas, but we need more space to do that.
Yeah. I suppose the closest that we've got to something like that would be Winter Wonderland.
Exactly, yeah. Hyde Park Winter Wonderland, and I think that's why everybody loves it so much. There's huge. I mean, there's probably just as much space taken up for food and drink at Winter Wonderland as there is for rides.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it the whole day out. You can go, you can sit down, you can have a drink, have entertainment, have some food, enjoy the rides, and it's a day out, not just an hour and a half, 2 hour visit.
Yeah. Do you ever see the possibility of anything on the scale of Winter Wonderland somewhere else in the UK?
Yes, yeah, I do see it. I mean, already you have Newcastle. You've got Hull Fair, you've got Goose Fair, so you've already got big sites. The problem is with a lot of those is, like I said, because they've been run for so long, so many years, like the Goose Fair, a lot of sites are tied to family names. So it's making the changes, but I do see it. Yeah, I think there's a call for it.
Yeah, because talking about the European showman, there's a lot that comes over for Winter Wonderland. Would we see them coming over for a different event as well?
I don't know, if you want me to be honest, and I think they would say the same thing about potentially us going to Germany and different places. I'd rather not. I'd like to see the English market be able to, or the British market be able to get the bigger rides and expand. Like I said, unfortunately, we've just not really had the opportunity. It's not for the want of doing it. I think it's not having the opportunity, because if you went and bought, let's say, Olympia Looping, there's just no sites in the UK.
Yeah.
So without the new places like Hyde Park and others, I mean, I was one of the people, actually, I was really disappointed when a lot of the Europeans came over to Hyde Park, because I just thought, we as British, we needed an event like that. But looking back at it now, in hindsight, if it wasn't for the Europeans, Hyde Park wouldn't have been as successful as it is, because we didn't have the equipment in the UK. I mean, because of the strength of Hyde Park, it's allowed people to buy bigger rides now, actually, even in the UK market, even ourselves, because we have that big event to go to. So actually, I'm thankful for the Europeans to help us go along, and also to show the British market what we can do. And again, it's not the showman, it's not the operators for the want of doing it. It's just not having the locations to do it. And hopefully other city councils, other people might look at that and think, hey, you know what? This is something that could actually work in our city, but they need to work with people to get there.
Yeah.
We can't get these rides just overnight, and you can't afford to buy them for one event only.
Yeah. What about British showmen taking their rides abroad? Does that happen quite often? Do they go over to Europe?
No, not really. Again, because of the size of the rides. I mean, we have been to Europe a few times. So we went to Kortrijk in Belgium with the Orbiter, which was hell knows how many years ago that was. I don't know how old I was, but that was 30 years ago maybe. So we went to Kortrijk with the Orbiter, and the Orbiter built next to a Bayern Curve. And I remember when we drove in with the old Atkinson, everybody thought it was a traction engine, because the old British Atkinsons and things, the British lorries.
Yeah.
To drive around in the Atkinsons and the Fodens. And then abroad, they all had their own type of lorry. So when we drove in with the old Atkinson, they literally thought it was a traction engine. But the Orbiter was a simple ride, but it stood next to a Bayern Curve. And I remember looking at the Bayern Curve, and I don't know if anybody knows the Mack Bayern Curve, but it was basically like a toboggan ride that just went around the outside. And as it went faster, the car tipped in. and you went up the hill at the back and then down, and it was just a fast round ride. That's all it done. You sat in like a toboggan. The circle of it was so big that the orbiter would have actually built in the water fountain in the middle of the ride. And that was going back all those years ago. That's how big they were compared to the rides that we had. But the orbiter did very well there. The orbiter did a job. And then we went to Tilburg a few times. So we went with a Frisbee. I went to Tilburg with a Big Ben. So I've had some good times over in Europe. But yeah, I mean, they have a lot of big rides. I think one of the first people to go to Tilburg actually was Raymond Cadona with a waltzer, believe it or not. And the waltzer was going out there and did very well. But then a waltzer wouldn't work anywhere else. You don't see a waltzer in the European market. But a waltzer, for some reason, worked at Tilburg.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very strange. Like you said, the way people, they don't have the gallopers like we have the gallopers. The traditional gallopers, you see them everywhere here. You don't see them over there.
It won't feel like a fair without them.
It's just, again, what would a fair be without a waltzer? But it's the breakdance has always been the thing in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, a breakdance in the UK has never really worked.
And it's strange because it seems so popular that people are always saying, oh, they want to see breakdancers.
They do, but I mean, a breakdance came to Hull Fair years ago. It was a Huss breakdance. I can't remember whose it was. It might have been Roosevelt's actually at the time. And it just didn't do as good as it should have done. But it's just quite weird. The UK have a waltzer where everybody used to like standing around listening to the music.
Yeah.
And on the continent, that was a breakdance.
Yeah. Have you ever been over to a European fair and been so influenced by something that you've seen over there that you're like, I've got to have one?
Well, the shakes behind you.
That one.
That was one. Yes, I remember somebody telling me about the Starflyer years ago and said, oh, the Starflyer's doing amazing. The Starflyer's the thing. And I was like, sounds boring to me, just going up there and dangling on a chain and coming down again. But yeah, then when we saw it, it was like, wow, actually, this really has some. And we bought them. The tower was another one. We saw the Huss Tower. And we absolutely loved the Huss Tower, the shot and drop. We spoke to Huss about getting one for the UK. It was just out of our price range at the time. And we went down the region of the tower. So I think a lot of things that we've seen, even the Frisbee, again, came because of the European market.
Yeah.
The Top Buzz and the Frisbee was the two strong rides at the time. We couldn't afford a Top Buzz. We couldn't afford the Huss Frisbee. But we bought the Fabric Frisbee and that did its job. That did exactly what we needed to do. It fitted the UK markets. We could build it up and down. We could take it down in 3 hours, 3.5 hours. Whereas a Huss Frisbee, which we have a Huss Frisbee now anyway, we've actually got the first one that was ever built. It's a different machine. It's a different bag. So no, yeah, we've had a lot of influence. But we've had to put the UK spin on it to be able to fit our sites.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that a lot of enthusiasts do say about the European scene compared to the UK one, and I'm going to try not to offend you here for this one, is that the European rides are just so much better looking and seem to be looked after more. Would you agree with that?
I would, but again, I'd go back to the whole thing of the sizes, the times that we're open. I mean, we do fairs which are 3 and 4 days regular. If we had 2 or 3 Hyde Parks a year, then you can go to Hyde Park and look at the British rides and they look great there.
Yeah.
If you had 2 or 3 of those a year, well, then your rides could look a lot better. And I think that's the thing. It's that whole of going onto a muddy field and then having to get the ride tore down without causing damage and off again for the next morning so you can go and get somewhere else. And unfortunately, that's the problems we have. We don't have these nice tarmac places to go and work on all the time with paths around. And so I think we just have to work with what we have. And I think actually a lot of the rides now still look very well. I mean, if you go back to, let's go back to the 1700s, if you like, or I don't know if it was quite 1700s, maybe I've gone too far, early 1900s. You look at some of the rides that used to be on the old traditional things, and they used to have waltzers or speedways and the moon rockets with so much intricate detail and scenery, which was 3 times higher than what we have now.
Yeah.
So the British market was there, but then all of a sudden we went to a more mobile, quick market because that was the way we had to go to try and make the money. So, yeah, I do agree. They look so much bigger and better. And what you find in a lot of areas on the continent as well, sometimes one ride can be owned by a family, whereas in the UK they tend to be owned by individuals.
Yeah.
But I think that's the difference. It's having that water supply when you get onto site. It's having the power to be able to just plug in. Being on the concrete or on the tarmac all the time is a luxury for us. Even Hyde Park is on the grass. The best site we have is on the grass.
Yeah.
So Goose Fair, part of it is on the grass. You have to get there and build up quick because you go on the car park for the network for the tram, and then you have to get off again quick. So this is the whole thing where, unfortunately, the UK, we haven't had the luxuries. I think a little bit different in Holland. Holland, again, they do a lot of small fairs. Tilburg is in the street. But again, I'd probably get in trouble for it, but I think a lot of the Dutch rides still don't match up to a lot of the German ones.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of the Dutch rides now travel in Germany, there's a bit of a mix. But like I said, I think it's leveling out a lot more from what it used to be.
Yeah. If you was to say to somebody like myself that's never been abroad to these European fairs, and I said, right, which one should I do and why? Which one would you recommend?
Well, again, it's going off the ones that I know, but I think if I was talking about them, you said it earlier, very good similarity is Hyde Park. And probably Hyde Park is one of the best now. Munich is a great one. Munich is a good one, but again, you got to go there for the bratwurst, for the umpire bands, for the beer, because that's the main atmosphere of the place. So Munich's great, Stuttgart's great, Tilburg is a good one in Holland because it's got the atmosphere throughout the streets. The Fair de Tron we used to go to every year in Paris. I wouldn't say necessarily some of the biggest and best rides, but it was just a nice big event. Every year we used to go to the Hamburg Dom. Now the Hamburg Dom, there's a good example for you, is a big flat space in the center of Hamburg, just off one of the main streets in the main town. They have 3 fairs a year on one site. Each fair is for a month long. So for 3 months out of the year, a fair is built on that site.
Wow.
Some people have rides mainly just for that one place. So they'll build it up, they'll take it down, maybe park it 4 miles away, bring it back, build it up, take it down, park it back. That's the difference. They have the spring dom, the summer dom, and the winter dom.
Yeah.
Some rides go to every single dom. Some rides chop and change. But that's just a pure example of one place like Hamburg, of the facilities that they have. And every single one of the DOMs has a slightly different feel because of the different time of the year, but they're all good business.
Yeah. Just moving away from Europe for the moment, is there any other countries that you've done travelling fairs in to experience them?
No, I haven't, but I did have some friends out in Australia, and they used to just ring me up regular to say, because the Australian market kind of followed the UK market. So they would ring me up and say, well, okay, what's happening over there? What's the best ride? I've heard of this frog hopper jumping ride. What are they like? What you guys are using sound effects now on the rides. Can you give us some advice? So I've not been to the Australian fairs, but I'd like to go. I've been to Spanish fairs. The Spanish fairs are very similar to the British in the atmosphere. Yeah. But the Spanish ways are crazy. I mean, they have a pirate ship where you stand in a stainless steel cage on the end.
I've seen them, yeah.
And you stand up in it. And then I've seen an Enterprise again with a cage on an Enterprise, and you stand up. Now I just think, my God, if your legs give way, because there was nothing, you just stood up. So some of the rides and things were quite crazy out in Spain. And the way they operate, the way they stand up on the rides, it's some of it's a bit mental, to be honest with you. And then I've got some guys that work with me now from the US fairs, and I've always spoken with them. Again, the problem is what the US have is they've got some big rides, but their weight restrictions are so low.
Yeah.
So they can't get some of the big rides now on the roads, and they struggle. But the US Midway is, I don't know. Again, my friends Scott and TJ that work with us, they'd probably criticize me for saying it, but I don't think the American ones have quite got it. You know, for me, they've always been a little bit older with the rides. You know, still running the zippers and the chairplanes.
Yeah.
But you can't criticize them. They still have a great atmosphere on the midways. Norway, mind you, I've operated in Norway with Osmond Lund's Tivoli. So I enjoyed working out in Norway. But again, Osmond's done a fantastic job out there. He's got his own circuit, which used to be Axel's was the big circuit out in Norway, Scandinavia. And Osmond has basically took a lot of the smaller rides, like you'd see in the UK market, but themed them all.
Yeah.
So he's gone, which is something that I was trying to do a bit ago, but we never really succeeded with that part. So when I did Tropical Fever and Insider and Crazy Shake, we wanted to theme, but we just lost the theming when it got to Frisbee.
I'm off up Norway next year, so I might see if I can catch some.
Yeah, well, if you get to Oslo and Tønsberg, Bergen, yeah, they have some great, nice fairs there, lovely fairs, and these rides are immaculate.
Yeah, I think it's Norway. I don't know. It's a cruise.
I think Osmond got the waltzer actually and called it Fireball.
Yes.
And he was the first person I've ever seen actually theme a waltzer in that way. And he spent as much money on the theming, I think, as he did on the ride. But he made a cracking job of it, and that's what Lund's did. Was they tried to make their rides more of a mobile theme park.
Yeah,
I actually learned a bit from him back in the day when we were doing Thunderworld, and we started to put out. Sorry about the ding dongs. It's
okay. I've got a dog barking here as well.
I'm in the head office today in the centre of Nottingham, so it's the town hall bells.
Yeah, so somebody just posted something, so she's going crazy. She's completely made me forget where we was now.
About Osmond and how he had the theme in the park. So we used to put out themed bins and lampposts and signposts, and it was some of that then I started to try and take the ideas on putting them onto Thunderworlds.
Yeah.
So instead of them just being pop-up fairs, I tried to make them feel more like a theme park. You know, as I always said, temporary, permanent. I didn't want to see wheels. I wanted everything to look temporary, permanent.
Yeah. I'm just completely lost now. She's put me off now. Is there anything that's in Europe at the moment that you've got your eye on? Is there something that you're going, I like that?
On the mobile circuit or in the theme parks?
Both.
I think in the parks, really, they've just got some great coasters. So yeah, I've got my eye on a few coasters and things which are out there, and I'd love to be able to replicate or do something with. On the traveling circuit, no, I don't. Not that I can think of now.
I think that is the other thing as well with the European scene is their theme park scene as well. It's just fantastic at the moment.
It is, and I think that's what's also, like I say, damaging the German fairs and things. The German industry isn't what it used to be. There's a lot of people that I know that have been saying, that have been coming out of the industry, selling rides, downscaling a little bit, because workers, as much as anything now, to do with this business, it was very hard work, and it still is very hard work. You have to be able to get stuck in, and nowadays it's getting harder to get people that actually want to do that kind of work.
Yeah.
The way the world is changing, I think people are getting lazier. I think people can do something. If I'm doing all that work, I can find an easier job. But again, back in the time, it's not just about the job. It's about, you've got to enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
So I think there's a multiple of reasons, but yeah, the theme parks abroad, I mean, Europa Park, at Phantasialand, there's some great, fantastic parks out there. And I haven't visited the European parks. The only European park I've really been to is Disney.
Yeah.
But now I do want to go out to the other European parks, because I think they're really doing a good job of it.
Yeah, I think even some of the smaller ones are really surprising at how good they are, what they've got. I mean, the one that springs to mind is it Plopsland? That looks like a fantastic little park.
I've never heard of that one.
That's in, is it Belgium? I could be completely wrong. it's somewhere like that. It's drivable because we've actually looked at driving there. So no, that's a nice little one. But I think Europa is definitely one of them that has to be on everybody's bucket list.
Well, I've been told by many people that Europa Park is better than Disney.
Yeah.
And it depends for what reason. I mean, Disney's magical, absolutely magical. Everything about it is what they do. You're entertained on every little corner, everywhere you look. However, it's magical, and it is for the inner child. And it's also for the younger generations. But I believe with Europa Park, they have the big coasters. They've got everything there, but also intricate detail on things. I mean, they don't have fake sceneries. They take a church from out the middle of Germany, dismantle it, and actually build the church again in Europa Park. So everything is, realistic and genuine. So I've got to go. I can't say too much about it because I've not been. I've seen lots of images. I have been invited by the Mac family to go out there. They've got a water park there now. I mean, when you think about where Europa Park is built as well, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Literally now, the whole town, I suppose you could say that about Alton Towers. And the whole town works for Europa Park pretty much. So no, definitely a place that's on my bucket list.
Yeah, no, I think
Take some more photos of curbstones.
Is there any other ones in Europe that you take your fancy? Trying to think which are the other big ones as well.
There's Toberland.
Toberland. What's the one in Spain?
Fantasia Land. That's one I want to do. One in Spain is
Portaventura. That's
Portaventura, which has got the Ferrari.
Yeah.
No, it's not on my bucket list. It's not one I'd make a special journey to. Really, I don't know why. I think they're all great parks. To be fair, you've only got to go to any of them, and they'd be good. But I definitely think those three that I said, and they're the ones that I do want to go to.
Yeah. Speaking of Ferrari as well, with being in Dubai quite a lot, have you actually experienced the parks over there?
Yes, yeah, we went to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, actually, the Ferrari World.
Yeah.
I went with the kids probably 5-6 years ago. Lovely park, lacked atmosphere. That was my only thing with it. But again, it's so hot there that they've got the big building and everything was inside. And on the day we went, there wasn't many people. I don't think it's not been a busy park anyway. The coasters are great, but it just lacked atmosphere.
Yeah.
For me, that was my only concern. I haven't been to the other parks in Dubai. I went to IMG World of Adventure. Again, amazing theming, unbelievable, but it just lacked an atmosphere. And I think that's the problem sometimes when you put a massive roof over everything and it's all indoors, unless there's people, it kind of loses its atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that some parks have, and it's very hard to put your finger on, especially when you're designing a park, how to create an atmosphere.
Yeah. I think that's a big difference a lot. Well, people say between a travelling fair and a theme park is there's a massive difference in atmosphere. Which atmosphere do you prefer? The one from a travelling fair or one?
I do prefer. I like an element of both. I love the theming side of things. I love that immersiveness that you get, almost absorbed. You get taken into this zone. But I love the traveling side with the music, the lights, the spiel on the microphones. So I do think I prefer that side for that reason. But you can't criticize some of these big places when you're completely immersed.
Yeah.
But getting an atmosphere right is difficult.
Yeah.
Is difficult. And even on fairgrounds, to just set a fairground and people think, oh, you must just throw the rides on there. That's why some fairs are good and some fairs aren't. It's just about getting the right atmosphere, and people create atmosphere.
Yeah.
But you have to imagine, how do you create that atmosphere when you don't have people? So you've got to, it's very hard to get it right. And some places just have it perfect and some places just miss it.
Yeah. I mean, talking about that atmosphere again between the UK and Europe, what is the kind of atmosphere? I mean, because I know, I don't want to sound negative here, but I think fairs in this country are associated sometimes with the wrong crowds hanging round. And do you get that over in Europe?
Same. It's the same. You could say that about here, but again, it's when you compared to, you go to Hyde Park and you don't see the wrong crowds hanging around.
Yeah.
You go to Munich, you don't see the wrong crowds. It's because they're outnumbered. You've got so many other people there. So I suppose it just depends where you're classing it to. If you're talking about the smaller fairs, well, then the only reason you'll be saying that is because people are, instead of hanging around the park or hanging up the streets, they come to the fair. And it just depends on what they've got. People come, they'll have a good time. And then when they run out of money, they still want to enjoy the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So just because people are there doesn't mean that they're a wrong kind. It's just because people are hanging around, I suppose. So
yeah, I
think it's a bad way of explaining it. But like you said, theme parks, you have to pay to enter.
Yeah.
The fairgrounds are free to enter. So they're there for everyone. So it doesn't matter if you've got a lot of money or you haven't. You could still come and enjoy the atmosphere.
Yeah, because I think it's just sometimes seen as a British thing and it doesn't happen anywhere else. So I'm actually glad to know it does happen somewhere else.
It does. It happens absolutely everywhere. It's when people talk about crime and things, crime's worldwide, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And like you said, people hanging around, in Spain, again, it's totally just thinking about in Spain, I see gangs of young people hanging around in Spain, but it becomes like a place where they go to meet people, if you like. You see a lot of boys meeting the girls and things because it gets everyone from the towns, the villages out into one place.
Yeah. Do you've got to wonder how many love stories have started at a fair?
Exactly, because, it changes. You can get the different people from the different areas, from the different streets in an area that don't mix. But then when something like a fairground comes, because the fair is only there for once a week, one week a year or something, well, then people congregate. Sometimes you might get a few people that obviously don't get on that then meet each other, but then you get a lot of other people that actually make new friends. I love it when you go to places like Ilkeston Fair, for instance, and I can walk through that street at Ilkeston and see so many people waving at other people. Hi, how you doing? Not seen you for ages. How's such and such? And they're meeting neighbours, they're meeting friends, they see people. So actually, fairs are a great community thing, really, because they go to the local towns. Sorry?
I think a lot of people don't actually see a fair as part of the community because they're coming from out of the community. But it is so much a big part of it. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, we used to have a local fair in our park and they stopped coming. And everybody missed it. And it was only until it stopped coming that everyone was like, you know what, that was actually a big part of everybody meeting up and having fun. And it was only until it was gone that we realised that.
It does. It brings the people together. People talk about it. Oh, the fair's coming next week. Are you going? It's the same with the circus, I suppose, But again, the circus, you have to pay to enter. Whereas the fairground, the grandma could take the children down. Well, I'll come down and I'll watch the kids on the rides. I don't want to go on, but I'll just watch them.
Yeah.
I do think the fair circuits, but again, when you go to your bigger ones, it's different. It's not about the community. They become a destination.
Yeah.
The Nottingham Goose Fair again, people that used to live in Nottingham many years ago still come back to Nottingham for that week.
Yeah.
To see family, but to come back to Goose Fair, it's a destination.
No,
it's an attraction for the city, like again Hyde Park is for London now, like Hull Fair is, again your Oktoberfests, your Stuttgarts, they're an attraction.
Yeah. So I know with Goose Fair, I mean, I used to live up in Sheffield, which was only just down the motorway. So that used to be the local big fair and I'd go. But now all the way over in Lincolnshire, I'll still go to it because that's my big fair. I absolutely love it. It's like it's part of you that you can't miss it.
It is. And Goose Fair's now been cancelled last year, obviously through the pandemic again. So it's very rare, and it breaks tradition for people.
Yeah.
Going to your local fair is almost like watching the Queen's speech at Christmas or sitting with your family at Christmas. It's something that people have done for generations, and they people say, oh, well, I remember when I was young and I come down here and they had such a ride, or I went on this one when I was at home. So there's a lot of family traditions built around the fairgrounds and theme parks.
Yeah, like I said,
but fairgrounds have been going the longest.
If fairgrounds could talk, they must be able to tell some fantastic stories.
Well, when you think about, again, theme parks, a lot of the theme parks have come from fairgrounds.
Yeah.
It all started on the road, and then it's just started through a few rides going into Drayton Manor, Alton Towers, a lot of these places and the piers, a lot of places have started from the fairground background.
I think we've covered a lot there, and we're just about out of time. But do you know what? I've actually learned so much. Like I say, with not going to Europe to do the fairs, I feel a lot more knowledgeable now to go and do them. So thank you.
Yeah, well, we used to go out there, as I said, a gang of lads. We used to get in a car and drive in May to Paris. Every year we would do it. We'd take 2 cars and we'd have a couple of nights in Paris, go to the Fair de Tron. And that was like our little busman's holiday. I even got my work lads sometimes, and we went down there. We went to Munich. We flew into Munich once, and I think there was 4 or 5 lads. And we got to train them from Munich to Stuttgart for one day. So even coming from the industry, going out there, seeing the different atmospheres, the different sites, different fairs, there's always something different to each one.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Well, that's it now. We are out of time. So I'll just say thank you very much for that. It's like I said, I feel more informed now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you've got any questions or any topics that you want us to cover, put them down in the comments. I also need to say a quick thank you to Stuart Brett for letting me use his photo of Crazy Shake. He promised me that he could use it if I
Quite an original photo, that one.
I was panicking last night that I didn't have one, so I messaged him going, can I use your photo of Crazy Shake?
Yeah. If I looked at that ride long enough, I could try and figure out the years, because when the ride first came out, which that's the scene when it's painted on the backflash, it didn't have the stickers on the cars because I put them on before Goose Fair the following year, and it didn't have the canopies on the back. So I could look at it and all the little extra pieces I've been putting on.
So I'm sure we'll know what year he's taking it. So that's it for this week. Join us again next time. At the moment, we are on every 2 weeks because with everything opening up, life's got a bit hectic. So we'll see you next time, and thank you very much for listening.
You've been listening to Life is a Rollercoaster, a podcast about the past, present and future of the events and attractions industry. If you'd like future updates about our podcasts, please like and subscribe.